Hey everyone, it's Michael Goosebumps fan. Today I have another thing like Goosebumps I want to talk about. And I know we're all getting kind of burnt out on things like Goosebumps. Trust me, I am too. Not with Strange Tales, which is what this video is about. This is Strange Tales number 10. Of course, this is written and published by Marvel before they were Marvel. It was called Atlas at the time. I gotta tell you, this is another really good issue. 6 stories here. Really good stories for the most part. I think there was only like 1 or 2 that were a little beyond me. One that I was really disappointed with by the end, but yeah, this is a really good issue. I'm really stoked about this. That's a really cool cover too, with the hidden head right there. That's bandages around that fella's noggin. I'll start off with the first story. Now, like I said, I know we're getting burned out on a lot of these things like Goosebumps videos. I've been doing so many of them. I've been trying to come up with some other ideas to talk to you guys about stuff while I'm trying to read some other books that are not Goosebumps based, and I'm getting burned out, like I said. So I'm trying to get back to reading more Goosebumps stuff after I finish the next book I talk about. I will be buying Strange Tales Volume 2, though, on my Kindle, because I love Strange Tales. These are just so great. I have such a blast reading these at work and thinking about them while I go back to work in between breaks, or after breaks. But anyway, the first story in here is called The Boy Who Was Afraid. I really liked this. I thought it was a really weird, wacky, Tales from the Crypt type of story that just... It almost like feels like more like Tales from the Dark Side, honestly. Essentially, there's a young boy whose dad is very abusive, very mean to him. The boy is apparently afraid of cracks on the street. And, you know, you hear the old line about, you know, step on a crack, break your mother's back, which is very prominent in the 90s, very much like the boys go to Jupiter thing. And the boy is terrified of this thing for some reason. He won't go outside even though his dad keeps telling him, go outside and play. Stop staying in here and reading books and stuff, which is real weird because a lot of people would prefer their kids to be inside in 2019. Even though they say they'd like them to be outside, they mean outside while they're watching their kids every second and every moment. Anyway, I won't go into that. But The Boy Who Was Afraid has really nice art. Kind of a weird character style too, because you have the art like this with this boy here. It doesn't always look like that, but for the most part, the dad hits the son and stuff all the time, too. That's kind of hard to watch, even though it's a picture, you know, you're looking at a picture. It still makes you hurt in a weird way, because it's effective. And eventually, the father takes the son to a psychiatrist to try to work these things out. And I'm going to tell you, I did not guess the ending of that story. I did not know it was going to go that way. Kind of blew my mind. Frankly, it kind of blew my mind. I didn't expect it to go the way it went. Gotta tell you, on a 5-star basis for rating this particular story, I really dug it. I thought it was a really good story. If I had to rate it, I'd give it a 4 out of 5. Really good one. I didn't expect it to start off that good either, you know, honestly. Now, this one is a really good one. This is the written out story. And of course, once again, you read a page and then you have to interrupt this with another story, which I never do. I just read the whole story and then I go back to the issue or the story that's in between the 2 pages of the story. This short story is very long. The print here, I don't know if you can see that very well, but the print is much smaller than it was before with the other stories previously to this. So I'm curious if this is like a one-time thing. It's kind of a lengthy story. I really like this one. It's called Dream of Death, and it was really cool. Essentially, there is a man who passed away. He had 3 sons, and his wife was left behind 2. And essentially, he left his fortune separated amongst the 3 boys. And he kind of left a thing for each of them, and he told them that as each of them hit the age of 21, they receive their portion of his wealth. It's equally for sure divided. But there's always a catch to every single one of these. For example, the first brother is told that when he was born, for example, and all of them are kind of similar to this, but not entirely with the scenario. Every time one of these boys were born, the father had a dream of them dying, you know? And it was always a circumstance that scared him enough to tell them, like, hey, don't own a boat, don't ride a horse, don't get married, you know, stuff like that. Not for all of them to follow all 3 of those things, but for each of them to follow one of those 3 things. And it kind of becomes a temptation thing, right? But if they do happen to fall into one of these things, like buying a boat, for example, which is one of the brothers' things, they're supposed to, by law, forfeit their entire fortune that they inherited to the other 2 brothers to divide up amongst themselves as well. And that also goes if one of the brothers happen to find out that one of the brothers fell into this whole thing. So there's kind of this tension that builds up. Not extremely, but well enough, in my opinion. I think it worked really well. That story builds and builds and builds, and I actually really like the ending. It's mostly kind of what you think it's going to be by the time the finale comes, but it works. It works really well. If I had to rate Dream of Death, I'd say not only is it one of the most well-written of the written-out portions of these issues, of these stories, but it's just good. It's just a well-done one. I pretty much enjoy all of these. I think there's only been 1 out of 10 issues that I haven't liked the written-out story. I don't remember which one it was. I think it was either the last issue at issue number 9 or number 8. It was one of the two that I didn't like the written-out story. But this is a good one. Dream of Death was really, really fun. I'd give it a 4 out of 5 stars as well. The next story was one that I was stoked for as soon as I saw the first picture on the screen. It's called The Monster's Son, and it has Frankenstein in it. Yes, the Boris Karloff Frankenstein model that changed everything, even though he doesn't look like that in the book, the Mary Shelley book. I love Frankenstein. For anybody who doesn't know, it's like my favorite horror film of all time. It is just flat out incredible, and it's not even really a scary movie. It has tense moments to it. I'm sure it was scary back in the day, but I love Frankenstein. Anybody that's watched my videos about like Frankenstein's dog from the Most Wanted Goosebumps series, you know how much I love Frankenstein. It's incredible. I love it. It's underrated to crap, you know, especially the old original movie, Boris Karloff. I love that that design is what's used here. Anyway, there's a man who is obsessed with the Frankenstein monster, and he actually thinks that it had a son. And of course, the title, The Monster's Son. Now, they're all in debate, he and his 2 friends, on how that's even possible, like biologically or physically or anything like that. It's a little weird to think about yourself when you're a fan like myself. I think the title, too, is a cool reference to Universal's films, The Monster's Son. I feel like if it was, you know... Well, I mean, there was a film called Son of Frankenstein, so I don't think they could call it that, but, you know, it's kind of in the same step and bound like that, so I thought it was pretty cool as a reference. Essentially, this man decides to go to the Frankenstein castle to try to find out if the son still exists and happens to live there for whatever reason. And the lore building around that son and the legend of the son of Frankenstein monster, I think even here they guiltily call him just Frankenstein, not Frankenstein's monster. But the son of Frankenstein might or might not be living in this castle, and I thought that story, I was so stoked when I found out it was about Frankenstein, because I love that stuff, like I said. And I got really into it. And then, like, the last panel of the story was so awful. Was so nonsensical. To the point that I don't even understand how they even got to that conclusion. It was the dumbest plot twist. One of the worst plot twists I've ever seen in anything ever. And it was so crushing and disappointing. Because of how good most of the story was. I think if we had a secondary character in here going with the main character to go look into the castle, and we found out something with that character instead, that would have been better. But that story, The Monster's Son, was really good. The art was fantastic, especially inside of the castle. I loved every minute of it until that last panel. Now, mind you, I didn't say page, I said panel for people who are not familiar with comics. It's the last little box of a picture that gives you that last little bit of information, and it just crushed me how bad that finale was and how it made absolutely no sense to me. I don't even get how we got to that. Like I said, it doesn't make any sense to me. If I had to rate Monster's Son on a 5-star basis, I'd give it like a 3 out of 5. It was a really good story for the most part. It was really engaging. Like I said, especially if you're a Frankenstein fan, you'll love this. But the ending, that took a big old chunk out of my rating. I was ready to give this a 5 out of 5 and everything when I was reading it at work. And it crushed me, frankly. Anyway, let's move on to the next story before I have some Vietnam flashbacks. The next story is called The Frightful Feet. This is a very silly type of story. This is the kind of thing like with Goosebumps, when you have the more silly, goofy type of thing. Like you have the cover of Chicken Chicken. I've never read Chicken Chicken, but it looks horrible. It sounds horrible. From what I've looked into and from what I've heard from people, that's the kind of story you have here, but it's not horrible. It's actually pretty good. Essentially, you have a guy who hunts, and the artwork here is very cartoony, honestly. For example, this guy that hunts for a living in this story, The Frightful Feet, he has a business where he uses rabbit's feet and sells them to people. Like, he has to kill the rabbits, cut their feet off, and try to give the feet to people who are dumb enough to buy that. The New Ager types that believe in luck and karma and stuff. Anyway, he goes out to start hunting the rabbits, and the rabbits themselves don't talk or anything, but they actually try to start abandoning this guy and getting away from where he can't kill them. And the way the rabbits are drawn is just hysterical. They have like these human-like faces almost. Just their expressions and whatnot. They're very, very snarky, and I love it to death. One of my favorite lines in the story is one of my favorite lines from Strange Tales, or anything for that matter, in all of history. There's basically a rabbit eating on one panel of like a carrot or something, and it says like munch as one of the noises, and crunch is another word for like the hyperbole or whatever it is. Or is it onomatopoeia? Onomatopoeia, I think is what it was. Whatever that word is that they put words on the page in comics. But anyway, they... the rabbit has two words beside him. It says munch and then it says crunch, right? And then the top of the next page after the rabbit gets shot says, and he munched no more. I about died. I don't know why that hit me the way it did. It's not as funny now when I tell it to you, but it hit me in a way that I haven't laughed like that in a long time. With all the stress with planning the wedding and Christmas and Thanksgiving coming up and everything, I've been in an utter panic here lately, and that got me in some weird primal way that I don't get. I don't know why I laughed so hard, but I did. It's great. It's absolutely great. And the ending was really dark. I liked it a lot, frankly, because I love dark stuff. If I had to rate the Frightful Feet on a 5-star basis, I'd give it a 4 out of 5. It's pretty good for what it is, especially with the art. The art, like I said, is very cartoony and very playful. It works for me. To be such a change-up from everything else we typically get, the only worry I have is that when you see things like movies and series of books and anything like that, that start getting more playful and more silly, it gets awful. You see what happened with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It started out with a great balance in Iron Man, with humor and tension and scariness, almost, with, you know, the kind of situation that was building with all the drama. And then later on down the line, you have Ant-Man, where the whole movie is like wannabe Iron Man, and it's a formula. Yeah, for sure, I don't have a problem with formula. It's that it's badly executed, period. And I still stand by that, and it's, yeah, that's what it was. And I worry that that might be the future of Strange Tales just because of this even existing, where it's well done that one time, and what if it leads us down a road where it's not well done? I won't get into that now, though. Yeah, 4 out of 5. I like the Frightful Feet quite a bit. The next to last story is great. I loved this. Now, it might be a little predictable, because if I was able to guess it, I know a lot of people are probably able to guess it too. I thought it was genius, though. I loved the story so much. I thought the art was great and everything. It's called The Hidden Head. Yes, that is Hitler that you see, with a gun pressed to the side of his head. Essentially, you have a Nazi who is watching and happen to work side by side with Hitler. He watches Hitler commit suicide, and then two guys drag him away and start burning the body. This particular man was a general or whatever he was in the military, in Nazi military, whatever, at that time during World War II. And he doesn't want to commit suicide. So he basically goes and tricks two other guards to follow him to go into this other civilian's house. Even though they're losing the war, American troops are coming in and taking out absolutely every Nazi out there, either captive or just killing them, plain and simple. And rightfully so. And one of the things that got me was that this guy goes into this civilian's house, this man and his wife and their 2 kids. He tells them, look, if you don't help me out by doing facial reconstruction surgery on me, I'll kill your whole family. I don't even care. And if something happens to me during the surgery, then I'll kill your whole family. My men will kill your whole family. They'll know what to do. And he does the surgery on the man, and the man has to walk around with bandages around his head, basically. And then the military, of course, from America and everybody else that was involved with the World War II, situation, start coming in. And the twist at the end of the story was so freaking great. It was so great. I loved it. I thought it was one of those things, it made me sit there and wonder why we've not had a Strange Tales movie. If Marvel and Disney want to do anything that could be actually good, like really good, they should make a Strange Tales movie. They could do something so great with this story. I mean, it is one of my favorite stories ever from Strange Tales. I hope at some point one day I can sit down and go through all the issues that I've read and reviewed here on the channel. God willing that Copa hasn't killed YouTube by that time. I'm going to keep mentioning that because I'm upset about it. So if I seem butthurt, I am butthurt. If YouTube hasn't been killed at that point, or at least my channel hasn't been killed at that point, I want to sit down at one point and just talk about like my top 10 or 15 stories in all of Strange Tales, because I've had a blast reading just these first 10 issues in this volume 1 that I read from on this Kindle platform. They've all been great. I've enjoyed every single story, pretty much, for the most part. I've had a few stinkers here and there, but this one is great. The Hidden Head is easily a 5 out of 5 stars for me. It is so great, everything from the artwork to the story to the plotting to the pacing. It is just magnificent. Magnificent, I tell you. Anyway, let's go on to the last story. The last story is called Keep Out, right? And Keep Out, it surprised me. I think the ending is really good. Mainly because of the twist there, but it's kind of the opposite of The Hidden Head. It's not as engaging for the most part. There's basically a gangster who shoots another gangster leader guy, and everybody starts coming after him, whether it be gangland guys, mobsters, gangsters at that time, not the ones who sag their pants, but those kinds of guys that wear the fedoras and stuff, and the cops are going after this one guy, and they chase him all over the place, even to his house. The only way he can get away is to go into this carnival, right? Now, by the time that I read this, I had to take a double take by the time I got to like the last page of the story, because I didn't understand what happened, right? And it took me a second, and my stupid self finally figured out what they were going for, and it was genius. It was really, really cool what they went for. Not like it was like a smart, intelligent message or anything like that, but just the resolve and the solution and the finale of that story really kind of surprised me in the midst of all this chasing and whatnot. That was a really great way to reveal what happened to our main character in that story. I really liked it. I would say that it's kind of a filler, honestly, but I thought it was a good filler, you know, for something that was just trying to fill up the last page, the last few pages of this volume 10 issue. But overall, when it comes to Keep Out, the pacing is not all that great. The story itself is just kind of, you know, meandering. I was kind of like, where are they going with this? Just going to have a shootout amongst mobsters who don't sag their pants? Like, you know, that's what I was really thinking about. And then the finale was really cool. So I dug it. I recommend it, honestly. It was really good. It was really good by the time you got to the end. I think the end is what makes it, is what I'm trying to say. If I had to rate Keep Out on a 5-star basis, I'd probably get a 4 out of 5. It's like a low 4 out of 5, but it's a good 4 out of 5. You know, regardless. Still recommendation. When it comes to the overall issue of Strange Tales number 10, if I had to rate the whole issue on a 5-star basis, I think most of it would sway towards a 4 out of 5. It is a fantastic issue, one of the best of the series I've read so far. I loved it to death, and I couldn't recommend it enough to you if you haven't checked it out yet. I talk about this all the time when I talk about Strange Tales. If you have not read it before, and you love Goosebumps, or you love Creepshow, or Twilight Zone, or anything like that, it's not as intelligent as like Twilight Zone, but it's as fun, if not more fun sometimes, than Goosebumps is. And I highly recommend it to you. It's so much fun. It's so enjoyable. I love the coloring, too. I think the coloring transfer over to Kindle is really good. I think it's like $16 a book, or $15, something like that. For a digital copy, that's kind of high. I know a lot of people have problems, like myself, about digital copy prices. But I think it's worth the money. I think you'll have a blast, especially if you like this kind of stuff I talk about on my channel all the time. It's really cool. So I'm kind of curious what I'm going to go for next. I don't know if I want to touch Volume 2 of Strange Tales yet and just kind of read and read and read. I know there's other things like Tales of Suspense. There's like a Tale of something that Atlas did it back in the day too. I don't know what it was though. I don't remember. But what are your thoughts on Strange Tales? Put them down below, guys. I'd love to hear what you have to say. What was your favorite story in this issue if you've read this issue? Did you love this overall volume? Are you planning on reading these at any point if you happen to be watching this video? Because I know a lot of people don't like the Strange Tales videos or don't care about them for that matter. More than don't like them, they just don't care about them. Which is fine. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But I love them. I think they're great and I want to talk about them. So anyway, what are your thoughts, guys? Put them down below. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Thank you for watching. Thank you for always being patient with me. Again, 4 out of 5 stars for me. This is a great issue. Really, really, really fun issue. This kind of changes things up when I'm in that bland kind of reading time in my life where I just don't want to read a whole lot right now, or I'm reading a bad book and I want something good to read while I'm at work, and this stuff works. It's pretty good. Anyway, 4 out of 5 stars for me. What do you guys think about my review? What do you think about the collection, short story, issues, whatever you want to call them? Put them down below. Thank you for watching. May the Lord Jesus Christ bless you guys today, and goodbye.